I'm Allendale's chief meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. Dryness in the Central Plains getting more and more attention. We've been talking about it for a little while. The moisture that moved across the Central Plains for most people was disappointing. It was in line with what we thought we would see. And now it doesn't really matter whether we got what we thought we'd see or whether we got more or less. Now it all comes down to what do we see from here? And this is where I think the big problem is when it comes to the weather in the Central Plains going forward. I don't see much action moving across the Central Plains here as we go through the next, 10 days to maybe even 2 weeks. We've seen scattered precipitation stay very, very limited across the central and southern plains to this point. Good moisture in Texas, good moisture near the Red River Valley. But as we go forward, it's going to be a very, very difficult task to get more moisture in. The reason why? We've got a nice warm air ridge over the western part of the country, cool air, deep trough digging in over the east. And so with that kind of setup, as we go forward, the moisture track is going to be where those two meet and are fighting. And right now that looks like it's going to be two places, from the northern plains down into the Corn Belt, and then from the west Gulf coast of the Gulf of Mexico up into the deep south, places that we've seen it raining here recently already. So as we go forward, we're just not going to be seeing a lot of precipitation coming in between. You know, that eastern Colorado, Kansas, southern Nebraska, even northern Oklahoma kind of scenario. So as we go forward, we're really going to have to see what can come to change this. And I've said this before in years past. I'll say it again now. When you got this kind of dry air hold, stranglehold in place, it's not going to take your standard run-of-the-mill little front comes through, makes everybody happy, and gives everybody rain. No, it's far more than that. We need something significant, something big. And I'll tell you this, as we go through the first part of next week from Monday night into Tuesday, we see some moisture coming down along that warm air versus cold air line. Eastern parts of Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska. But can it get down into Kansas? The GFS says maybe a little bit. I say probably not. It looks like it's going to be a nice storm complex for the Corn Belt. But for hard red winter wheat, I think we got some problems there. So let's just say we get a little bit out of that. It's probably not going to be any more than 1/4 of an inch. Then what? Well, the next weather system that we see coming in may not work in until sometime early in April. And when I say early, we're talking about the 4th or 5th as we go into Easter weekend there. We see some action coming together in Colorado, Wyoming, moving out to the east. So we don't have a real good moisture scenario building here. Also, we've got a major cold air scenario building. Initially, the cold air is going to be over the eastern third of the country, and it's going to be seeing some fairly significant reinforcing shots as we go on into early April. One of those reinforcing shots right around the 31st into April 1st might expand westward to include a good part of the Central Plains. We're talking well below normal temperatures. So all of a sudden, we've got the wheat crop that's tried to come out of dormancy in hard red winter wheat areas, hasn't had a lot of moisture to work with. It's not in the best shape overall, and then you waylay it back a good 15, 20 degrees with a cold shot. Not really the best scenario. So we got plenty of things to watch here domestically. With regard to the Corn Belt, as we start to see more playing in the dirt, getting ready for planting, we'll see a few systems move through. They're generally quick moving. We're working on one of the drier marches in a while over a large part of the Corn Belt. Chicago area, the third driest march on record. Haven't seen that quite so much down near the Ohio River, but still, it's been dry. We'll see a couple of quick-moving systems between now and early April. The first one tries to come through as we go into midweek next week, Tuesday night into Wednesday. Could bring some moisture to the upper Midwest and down across the eastern Corn Belt, half an inch or less, I think. We'll follow that up with another cold blast, maybe another Great Lakes kind of system as we move from the 30th into the 31st. And then we'll see another system trying to come out of Texas that might get a little bit of wraparound backside moisture around the 5th, so Easter Sunday. So there are some moisture chances coming. None of them real butt-kicking at this point. It's not anything that I would say would make us run away to the super wet side. As a matter of fact, this kind of pattern settles in still with my long-term outlook, which is for below normal precipitation for April, May, and even into June. International weather, not really showing much sign of change here. We see slightly less moisture in Brazil's soybean areas and a good warm air moving into Argentina still. Could see some heavier rains in Argentina over the weekend and into early next week as a strong system tries to build just off the Argentina coast. I think that's going to be more of a story probably for Brazil, south and southeastern Brazil, than anywhere else. Australia picked up some nice moisture in the 7 to 10 day period on the European model last night and kept it there this morning. I'm actually looking for Western Australia to have some decent moisture going into wheat plant. Not quite as good a moisture scenario for South Australia and New South Wales, still lagging a little bit. But anytime you can increase your moisture in Western Australia this time of year, you got to look at it as a good thing, and so we do. And we're still looking at a drier stretch going in the western part of Russia, Ukraine, former Soviet Union areas. Just not seeing a lot of action there. Ukraine may pick up slightly better moisture later on in the forecast period, but even that's kind of tenuous right now. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. Have a great weekend. If you've got any questions on the weather, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.